what a hell of a opening stage. Like, so obviously MSI changed their format a little bit, right? Changed it up. So no more plans. Now even the minnows get to play the bigger teams. And for a while there, it looked a little scary. You know, the story of Detonation Focus Me, the story of Infinity Esports, obviously Osh making it out, or LCO making it out, which is great. Everyone always overlooks the fact that, you know, the VCS wasn't there. So I think it's been a lot of fun to watch and a lot of fun to kind of get into. LS, how's it been so far? You've been doing your watch parties with the homies. How's MSI been for you so far?
MSI, I mean, obviously there was that one day that I didn't end up doing, which was the Pentanet group stage day. But outside of that, I mean, everything's been pretty good. I think day one was the most enjoyable day. I mean, every other day has been good except for when the groups get decided. Then obviously it makes spectating it pretty bad, but that's about it. You know,
I think the format is just so weird to me. Like the format makes no sense. The fact that you can go out of your group 8-0 and then a team that comes out of the group like 2-6 with a tiebreak win is just on even footing going into like the next stage seems so strange, because it incentivizes the top team trolling. And I honestly think that realistically the top team should have trolled more in their group. Like for example, like Cloud9's last game when they're guaranteed out, I think them lane swapping was a big mistake. It was something I talked about. They shouldn't show that they have the ability to lane swap. They shouldn't even show that they might play Rumble, because like there's no winning there, right? Like if Blabber plays Rumble and he plays it well, then people might view it as a threat, and maybe because they weren't playing it before, teams on red side would have left it up and they could have got free wins off it. Or if he plays it and he plays it terribly, then teams can know like, oh, maybe we can leave up Rumble. So like all the elements of uncertainty that like were around that champion are now somewhat answered in terms of Cloud9. And yeah, I just feel like that's like the weird thing about the group, because you don't actually get any type of advantage for placing. You should actually be trolling your later games.
Well, but they have to play those games out. They have to have the group stages. I think, you know, sponsorship wise, show run wise, like what do you think, they qualify and then you just stop? Like,
no, I think that you should just get an advantage for like getting first in your group. Like I don't like the format of like you qualify. Like there's in Group A, there's 3 teams. The top 2 teams like qualify, right? And then regardless of their score, they're completely equal. So what happens if you end up in a situation where like RNG has to play Unicorn? And this is something that almost happened. People were like getting critical of, is like RNG like ended up role swapping, and of course they're still going to stomp like the enemy team because they're so far ahead in that group. But in a situation like that, what happens if they roll swap and they actually like lose that game randomly? They roll swap, use a sub, lose that game, which is in their best interest because they don't want to show anything extra going into the group stage. Then a team might advance and we might not get a tiebreaker there. So that's like the weird thing, is that like obviously in this situation, rank 1 was so far ahead of rank 2 in that group that like that's going to happen either way. But I just think in general, like the thing that I liked is, for example, when we had play-ins last year at Worlds, there was differences in what happened depending on where you placed, right? So if you were first in your group, you automatically advanced to group stage. If you were second in your group, then you got to play against the winner of the 3rd and 4th place team from the opposite group. So you'd actually get to skip a best of 5. And if you were 3rd or 4th, you had to play the other person in your group and then have another best of 5 against the second seed of the other group. So like I feel like there's ways you can make these games matter and make placing within your group matter, but it's just like it's super strange to me that like it doesn't matter at all and everything resets going into the next stage.
Yeah, it is different. It definitely is different. I think what I like about I am not as negative about it though, just because I like the fact that they're willing to experiment with it. They had to deal with the fact that one of the teams is gone and wasn't able to do it in the middle of a pandemic. They're still trying to have it in person because obviously you can't play online. And I hope that they take that and what you said into consideration as well. Hopefully, like in terms of like maybe it's the top 3 teams. So what you think it would be, the top 3 teams make it out and second and third play a playoff against each other to make it into.
Or maybe not like a Rumble stage, because the Rumble stage is essentially a second group stage, right? There's like this group stage and then there's another group stage, which is like the Rumble, where all the teams are just competing in the same group. And out of those teams, there's 6 teams, 4 go on. I want to see more best of 5s essentially at a tournament. I feel like the more best of 5s you have, the less variance that you have in the tournament. I think in general, most people don't view best of 1s as like a better measuring tool than 5-game series or 3-game series. So I would love to see like a group stage and then like a bracket stage where, you know, like the teams that are first maybe get 1 spot advanced in the bracket, similarly to how they do, you know, like LPL playoffs, LCS playoffs, LEC playoffs, you know, where there's like a winners bracket, losers bracket. The teams that place like second in the group, you know, have to play like a round robin of some sort, or they have to play best of 3s against each other. I just think that will make like a more hyped tournament than a bunch of best of 1s.
LS?
I mean, I think, yeah, the format of MSI is kind of, I mean, I guess actually, you know what, the last like 2 days weren't that bad, but early on in the tournament, one of the things that was really sort of resident sleeper was the fact that it felt like games were just being decided in the first 7 minutes, right? The top teams versus like the wildcard teams. But then upsets started happening, and then Dom1 started playing like shit. And so things get a little bit weird there, right? But I think, yes, what everyone looks forward to mostly is best of 3s or best of 5s, but this like best of 1 thing, not only does it like kill the mood, I feel like it's really hard to structure the groups or the brackets in a way that keeps the viewer engaged throughout the entirety of the group throughout the day. It's really, really, really hard. Or you make the viewer agitated. Like, the fact that you can have like RNG play last after having played first or something, or Dom1 or Cloud9 or anything like that, right? It feels weird. I can understand it from like a viewership standpoint, but I also think that when you have so many bad games in between, sort of harms the viewing experience. It doesn't keep the viewer engaged until that final match, because some matches just don't matter. So
I'll agree with those points. I'll agree with those points, but I think the fact that we talked about a shit ton about Detonation focused me that there was a Cloud9's resurfacing and triumphant return in the second half of the group stages only happened because Detonation focused me and Infinity Esports were able to get wins and were tied with Cloud9 at 1 and 2, and everyone decided to pile on and shit on them. Like, without best of 1s, that excitement would not have happened. Like, yes, because there's a couple games where I was like, oh, this one kind of sucks, or this one doesn't matter. I look over at your co-stream, LS, and I'm like, oh, LS is in a solo queue game. Okay. And like that definitely does happen. That does happen. But I don't know if I would have more fun watching RNG do a best of 3 against Pentanet. Like, we got to watch them stomp 4 times, and again, that's just a product of VCS not being there. But a best of 3 of a very good team against a very bad team doesn't feel as exciting as the opportunity for them to be able to.
Yeah, and the idea would be that like that wouldn't happen, because in the group stage, RNG would have a big enough lead that like maybe you do a group stage where the top 2 teams get buys, right? So like maybe Dom1 and RNG get buys, and then like C9 has to play a best of 3 or a best of 5 against Pentanet, and then Mad Lions has to play a best of 3 or a best of 5 against like PSG. Like, that's the type of thing that I'm talking about there, where like the group stage gives you an advantage, so you don't actually have to watch like bad best of 5s. I mean, unless there's like a massive disparity between the top 4 and the bottom 6 or whatever, in which case like you can't really do anything because there's not that many teams at the tournament. Like, that's gonna happen either way. I just think that the format can like encourage like more, like less variance, and then like also like more matches that you actually want to see, because I have a feeling that there's going to be like it's gonna get to the point in the next round where like every team is just stomping Pentanet, and it's like, oh shit, there's a Pentanet game on again, and then you know, we got to watch like a million fucking best of 1s of Pentanet this tournament, where it's like, I don't think that, like, honestly, Pentanet overperformed. Like, they should have been way worse than UOL. They've overperformed, but you can't have a region that has 0 resource versus like regions that are like some of the best in the world, and then also have competitive leagues and anything, and then expect them to like be able to compete. And then it's going to end up like them getting stomped by everyone, I think.
Thanks so much for stopping by. Make sure to see what else is happening on VENN by looking through our news and videos.